Welcome back to the Black Collar Cartel. I had a spicy thought this morning. It's been about 6 months since the last custody order. He didn't even respond to the last motion I put in. It did admittedly look a little bit like the one I'd previously just done, but he's ignoring them. Or maybe he's even unaware, I don't quite know. Or he thinks it's the same thing and didn't realize that they're different. I did put in the word emergency. And he chose not to respond. So, and the judge didn't respond to my 300-page affidavit either. So I'm gonna start operating from a different standpoint of, hey, I think this is happening to, by acquiescence, they have confessed that they're doing this. And I don't know that that's going to get me all that much further in my life, but, I'm excited for the next experiment in this. And the next experiment is something like, typically you would put in a petition to modify custody, and it has like a really bland name. And my version of that is going to be something like, petition to stop extorting me for money, assisting my wife with kidnapping, and depriving me of rights, and adjusting the custody schedule. And in it, as I've been doing this, I put in a variety of different components to this. One component is the affidavit. A second component, I have a federal case that I've opened, and so I will put in a judicial notice for this. I will have an affidavit of probable cause, basically saying, hey, these people are extorting me, depriving me of rights, kidnapping my children and whatnot. And then it'll have, so that'll be sort of like a private criminal complaint. And then I'll also have bar grievances and judicial reviews, and I'll kind of make that one big packet. I've seen an approach where you do lots of like 3 to 5 page things. I'm not so good at that. My brain thinks in more holistic patterns than just, here's this one little thing you're doing wrong. I see the whole big picture. I get angry about it, so I write about it. So I think that's my next move in the world of custody. I know nobody likes me. I know they don't like me for doing this, but I don't like them for doing it. Stop holding my kids hostage. The way it's supposed to work, you do a Matthews balancing, and you say, what rights are we going to abridge? And if you're going to abridge a right like the liberty to care, custody, and control your children, you have to use strict scrutiny, and you have to apply a Matthews balancing test, and you have to say, like, okay, what's the nature of this right? Seems like it's a substantive right, which means that they're going to get procedural due process elements that are supposed to safeguard them from erroneous deprivations. And one of those is that we're going to put in strict scrutiny, and strict scrutiny is going to require a compelling state interest. And this is where the whole thing falls apart, is that in order to have like a compelling state interest, you have to determine that I am an unfit parent, because the Supreme Court's already said in Colleen v. Walcott that a fit parent, or when there's a fit parent involved, the state interest is de minimis. So they can't just like randomly intervene. They do, and that's why I'm in conflict with them. But they're not supposed to be doing that. The state judges act like they have 100% authority and plenary power to do whatever they want. But that's just not how it works. The Constitution circumscribes what they can do. The statutes circumscribe what they can do. The regulations circumscribe what they can do. The case law circumscribes what they can do. The Bible circumscribes what they can do. The Bible being part of like the common law, which is supposed to be applied to us. I don't know, the whole thing is just a doity game. Oops, excuse me. So we gotta, I keep trying to figure out other ways that I can fight this and keep raising uncomfortable issues, like they have extorted me for the possession or control or the custody of my own kids, and that's not okay. So I'm going to go after them, and I go after them in big chunks. And since I have determined, and they have actually defaulted on the fact that they all work together, I sent them an affidavit. I said, this is how this happens. Nobody responded. So I'm going to take their default as acquiescence, and I'm going to come at them from a standpoint of, you have already acquiesced. You have already confessed. You had your chance. The whole point, I forget which chapter it is. I think it's 1746 is the USC. But you basically write them an affidavit, and if they don't respond, and especially if you put it in there like, hey, your non-response is going to be considered as acquiescence to my story, they won't put it in writing. They probably want to go fight it in court, but the court's crooked. So my position is going to be, well, there's no fighting, there's no controversy. I sent them an affidavit. I said, here's my story. Do you agree with this or not? And if you don't respond, I'm going to assume that you agree. And nobody responded. So, fuckers agree. So I'm going to come at them, not with a, hey, I'm accusing you of this, but hey, you have confessed to this. And we'll see if that makes any difference. Probably not, but, at some point of me accusing, especially as I'm accusing federal agents of conspiring in a federal crime, it just changes the jurisdiction. Oh, I might die. Yeah, there's no solid ground. It's all covered in snow. So that's what I'm going to do, and we'll see how that goes. But, oftentimes I'll go to bed, and as I'm going to bed, I try to ask myself some questions, and I want my, maybe it's my higher self, maybe it's the part of me that exists just as a soul, kind of goes out of my body and does things at night. Maybe there's some subconscious layer here too, and I'm just trying to interact with that, kind of like you would in AI. So I'll ask it, a bunch of questions of, hey, what can I do to escalate my custody concerns? And then I'll wake up and I'll have a bunch of ideas, and I'll say, okay, let's run with those. And we'll see how it goes. It's an uphill battle. The whole thing is crooked. But, at some point, I think this thing breaks. Either it will break or I'll break. Fortunately, the good Lord has seen fit that I can't break. They want so much money from me that, in particular through income that I don't make, they're demanding huge amounts of money. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. So I have to resist. I'm forced into a position of resisting. And these are the ways that I do it. So, anyways, I'm going to go craft a document today, maybe tomorrow. And it will be a spicily worded, stop extorting me for money so you can unlawfully support my wife and kidnapping my kids. Detail that, put in some criminal complaints, part of an affidavit of probable cause, send it off to lots of different people, accuse lots of different people, anybody that to date has been involved, hasn't responded, that failed my FOIA request, defaulted, refused to provide me with the information, all of them have obstructed what I'm attempting to do. All of them are intentionally failing their duties. And so, conspiracy, dereliction of duty, official oppression, you know, all these things kind of come in, the federal versions, deprivation of rights, and I tie them all together. And I say, look, you guys want to act like one big unincorporated conglomerate, I'm going to treat you that way. And you know how it works out. And either, you know, some incredible harm will befall me, or, you know, maybe they imprison me at some point. They, the state attorney general sent armed agents to my house after my last criminal complaint, or one of my last criminal complaints, and said, stop accusing us of stuff, or we'll charge you with barratry. And I'm like, you know, I bet that's not in the employee handbook for that position. I bet that's not standard protocol. That feels almost like you are killing my right to free speech. Feels almost like you are retaliating against me, witness intimidating me. So I accused him of crimes. But now I'm going to have to start getting federal agents accusing more of them. So I'll just keep escalating this up and wrapping more and more people into it. But I guess this time going from the position of, I wrote this affidavit, told you exactly what I think is going on, by 28 USC 1746, you know, you didn't respond, you acquiesced, you essentially confessed, and that's the position I'm going to come from. And we'll see how that goes. Wish me luck, guys. Good times.